6 emergency exits.
Hello, everybody. This is Ron, your captain speaking. We are currently 30,000 feet in the air, and we haven't even left the airport. We just lit the joint. Just kidding, a little pilot humor there. We like to have fun. Our destination today is Casablanca, Morocco. So everyone, sit back, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for takeoff. We will be arriving.
Are you looking for a better way to play player props or daily fantasy sports? Well, look no further than Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the leading over-under daily fantasy game. Why? Because it's so easy to use and win. You can make your picks in under 30 seconds and win up to 10 times your money in one day. Right now, we have a special offer for our viewers and listeners of the 7-Footers podcast. All you have to do is sign up now and use the promo code 7Footer, and Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Yep, that's right. They'll match your first deposit up to $100. So, join the over 150,000 others who found a better way to play and download the Prize Picks app today.
Seven Footers crew, what is going on? It is a special episode, Gerard, because we're going to be chatting all things NBA Finals because we have made it, guys. The highest stage in the association. We are approaching it. How are you feeling, Gerard? Are you as giddy as I am?
We here now. Look, it's a marathon season. We always say the NBA season is a marathon, not a sprint, but we here. We made it, y'all. And now we're going to see what were, as the playoffs have proven, the two best teams this postseason in their performance. The East represented, of course, by the Boston Celtics, and the West represented by the Golden State Warriors. And, it should be a good series, Jenna, and I'm excited to get into it.
Oh, same here. So let's do exactly that. I mean, it's going to be, in my prediction, a tough defensive matchup. I mean, it's also going to be a battle on offense as well, because you have, of course, the greatest shooter we have seen in Steph Curry. And of course, Klay Thompson can't minimize his talent as well. So I was telling you this earlier on, before I let you dive into all things NBA Finals, this series, but this is a battle of the vets and the rookies, really, which is really interesting and fun per se a little bit here, because you have the Warriors, this team that's on the brink of a dynasty, some would say. Or most. And then you have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, who are trying to just add to the trophy case of the Celtics, which is so deep. But anyway, we got this Warriors team, this core group in the guys I just named, of course, and Draymond Green. And they're going back to the finals for what, the sixth time in 8 seasons?
Yep, 6 finals.
So they've been there. This is reps for them per se. So the Celtics, not so much here in these young guys. So talk to me about that matchup, first of all, because let's also point out that both teams are not at 100% at all.
Yeah. No, it's interesting you brought that up, Jenna. Look, it's all the things you mentioned, right? The Warriors are a dynastic club. Again, this is their 6th finals appearance in the last 8 seasons. We know they've won 3 NBA titles, looking to add a 4th for this collection of group, that core of Draymond, Steph, Klay, and you could add Andre Iguodala to that group as well. It's interesting, Jenna, because the Boston Celtics, while they are the younger team in terms of the finals experience, Tatum, Brown, and Marcus Smart, these aren't, second-year players, right? They've been in the league for a little bit of time, and they've been to conference finals. This is their first sort of like their first ability to get over the hump. They finally got past the conference. Finally. Let's not act like it's easy to do this, but they got past the conference finals, and now they're into their first NBA finals, right, for a chance to win the Larry O'Brien trophy. And we talk about it all the time. Winning in this league is hard, right? It's not easy. And this will be the toughest test for either side if they're going to be hosting that trophy in a couple weeks.
100%. Talk to me about the concerns that you have on both sides. I just mentioned that both teams are not at 100%. They're and likely not going to be at 100% anytime soon. So at this point in the game, we know players are used to playing through injury at this point in the game, but that's no easy feat, especially when you have this specific matchup, which is so defensive heavy.
No doubt. So I want to put the injuries to a side for 1 second and come right back to it. On the Celtics side, what concerns me is and I hate using this, but it's a thing, not being there before.
Yeah.
And I don't like to use that. And I use this, I tell you this story all the time. I've mentioned this story a bunch. I was talking to Shaquille O'Neal once, and it was the year that the Rockets were the best team.
Casual.
Yeah, casual. The Rockets were the best team in the regular season with Harden and Chris Paul. And I really thought they were going to win the championship that year. I mean, as a matter of fact, they took the Golden State Warriors 2-7, the eventual champs, and arguably should have won that series had Chris Paul's hamstrings not gotten injured. And I remember talking to Shaq in April, so right before the playoffs started. And I said, what about the Rockets? So we were talking about, teams like, the Rockets don't, in typical Shaq voice, Gerard, the Rockets don't have that typical championship DNA. And I was like, Shaq, but nobody has championship DNA until they win a championship. So, like, what does that even mean? Excellent point, Gerard. And I was like, what? But that's the point, right? So, like, I hate using that as a thing, because just because you haven't won a championship doesn't mean you can't or don't know how to win one. Everyone has to win one the first time, right? That's how it works. But the thing about the Celtics that not made me nervous, but the huge sigh of relief they let out after beating Miami in Game 7. And I worry that they have a little bit too much, like, we're happy to be here, because I
can't get caught up in that.
I don't think they have that, but I guess what I'm saying is, how focused are they on the task at hand and not getting distracted by all the hoopla and all the BS and whatever, and just focusing on that team that you're facing across the way there. Listen, man, they're a juggernaut. This ain't nothing's gonna faze them. They've been here before, and you've got to be on your P's and Q's if you're going to beat that team. So that's the one side on the Celtics. The other part about that, and it ties into the injury piece, Jenna, is the Celtics had an opportunity to close this series out against the Heat in 6 games and win that Game 6 at home in Boston on Friday. They did not, and it forced them to play a Game 7. Why does that matter? Well, it gave the Warriors 3 extra days of rest. Whereas had they closed out Game 6 on Friday, the Warriors would have had barely 24 hours more rest than they did, right? Mm-hmm. So they closed out Friday, final start Thursday. As it stands now, they won the game in Miami Sunday night, flew into Boston early Monday morning, landed at like 4 or 5 a.m., whatever, flew to San Francisco today. I just, and not to mention that grueling 7-game series against the Heat, which we know was super physical. They had a 7-game series the round before that against the Milwaukee Bucks. That was also very physical. So these are the things in a series where I think it's going to be close. Those two factors, Jenna, are tilting in the Warriors' favor, right? And we always say, to win in this league, you have to be very good and you need some luck, right? Well, the luck is tilting the Warriors' favor, at least early. Now, on the Warriors' side, what concerns me? Their ability to, because, as great as they are at shooting, I was like, oh my God, Steph, Clay, all that. They started to shoot the ball better in that Dallas series, but for the playoffs haven't been great. And this Celtics team is going to be the best defense they've played all postseason. They got a lot of points in the paint against Dallas because Dallas ain't got no rim protectors to worry about. Well, this Boston team, they got rim protection, okay? They got dogs out on the wing. So the Warriors' ability to generate consistently good offense with their system will be interesting to watch against that great Boston defense, and the Warriors' propensity to turn the ball over and what that could do for the Celtics in transition.
Yeah, I mean, everything you just described on the Warriors side, on the Celtics side, it points out the obvious. The Celtics have had the hardest road to the NBA Finals in this matchup anyway. I mean, beating out, you have to remember, eliminating Giannis and the Bucks and, of course, KD and Kyrie early on. But, again, pushing these 7-game series, so physical, especially the team to face before the Miami Heat. Damn, that's the last team you want to face before you have to take on the Warriors.
Exactly.
But, yeah, again, great points there. And yes, a lot of things are tilting in the Warriors' favor, but again, not to bring up age and be that person, but there's a lot more miles in the Bay on those legs than there is in the East,
You're right.
So And again, we also didn't mention, speaking of your first time in this position being at the NBA Finals, first year coach in Ime Udoka. So, I mean, I think I said this last episode, I would love to be a fly on the wall in the Celtics locker room to hear this man and what he's preaching that's working, obviously, in his first year. I mean, it's incredible to see how this team has picked the pieces up and figured it out so fast.
And I think, Jenna, the big thing that you're seeing there, what Ime's got them to buy into, is a defensive identity. This defense that Boston is playing, it's not just like really good for right now or whatever. They are playing historic defense. Like, they are playing really, really well. And the athletes they have and the players they have that can play in that system is going to be critical against a team like the Warriors and their motion and read and react offense, okay? Because when the Warriors are on offense, all 5 players on the floor are weaponized, right? The Warriors don't do single high ball, pick and roll, isolation. That ain't their game. Everybody is live with the basketball in their hands to do something. And as you know, I say this all the time, stopping isolation, yes, I get it. These are the best players in the world. But if that's all you're doing, ultimately, we can figure out how to stop that because it's just one-on-one. But if everybody's constantly moving and live, and that is difficult because if you wait or hesitate or get tired or lax for half a second, it's over, right? Someone slips to the rim, layup, someone's wide open for a 3 in the corner, and Steph and Jordan Poole constantly moving all over the place. That wears on you, and to the point of after playing the Miami Heat in the round before, when your legs are already tired because of it would have been nice to have those extra 3 days off. Now you got to go run around and chase Steph, who's been off for 7 days, right? It's just these little things. But again, I think defensively, what Ime Udoka has done, and historically, Boston has given the Warriors trouble in terms of how they guard their length and athleticism. And look, it's going to be a good series. You just hope that Robert Williams can play. You hope that Al Horford, Marcus Smart is as healthy as he's going to be. As you mentioned, everyone's dealing with something. No one's 100%, but hopefully those guys can really, for these last 2 weeks, give the best possible effort they can.
Yeah, definitely. And with the Celtics too, they are also the bigger team. So, they have that on their side, but it's also going to be a challenge because, like you said, the Warriors, their ball movement is so fast. This is going to be the ultimate test for the Celtics defense. Staying on the topic of defense for one last second here, because I know we said the defensive matchup is going to be great, but what specific matchup are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, on the Celtics side of it, Jenna, I think Grant Williams is going to be key. I talked about him in the past couple series. He's like a younger version of PJ Tucker, right? Like he's built like a fire hydrant. It's just
Good
like
comparison.
right? It's just like, God, he's like 6'6" or 6'7" in that range.
Yeah.
And like just thick. And it's like, damn, dude, like how are you moving that dude? He's just like, you're not, right?
Like a brick wall.
Yes. And his ability to play defense without fouling is going to be key. How do they deploy him in this series, right? Do they put him on Klay Thompson, right? And bother Klay and really make things difficult for Klay? Because it's not Klay's tall too, but it's not that, he's going to be able to easily shoot up over the top of Grant Williams. So that'll be interesting. And the physicality that Grant Williams provides as well. So that's a matchup I'm looking to as well. Of course, Marcus Smart starting out on Stephen Curry and his ability to chase Steph around screens. Marcus Smart and Kyle Lowry in the last series are among the best like floppers and exaggerators of contact that we have in the NBA. And, that's all well and good. But one of the things that Marcus Smart does really well, he knows off-ball action and movements, how to get over the top of screens. And that's going to be key because if you do not fight over the top of a screen, Jenna, a sliver, like you give these dudes a sliver of daylight and you're cooked, right? Like,
I'm going to steal your line. The margins are thin in this series on both sides of the ball. So, it's going to be interesting. This is where, in my opinion, where two-way guys, of course, shine the most and more well-rounded players like Marcus Smart and, Klay Thompson, Tatum, Brown. Yeah. This is where the more, high basketball IQ players shine because, again, that's how thin the margins are.
And those two players, especially for Boston, Tatum and Brown, are going to, they're going to have to be big this series on both ends of the floor. And on nights when the jumper's not falling, And I don't care. You have to find a way to make an impact on the game, especially on
even
the
if you're
defensive end.
facilitating at this point, and you're
I
like, I'm
don't
not
care.
going to try to get buckets.
Right.
I'm just
Drawing
going to dish it out.
fouls, whatever it is. But you have, it can't be, oh, I ain't scoring tonight, and then you go AWOL. No, that's a quick way to get beat in this series. Right. And I'll be watching that matchup because Tatum and Brown having those two apex predator type wings, 6'7" and taller. And Tatum, he might be like 6'10" by now. I think he's growing every year he's in the league.
For real.
That is, again, that size and that athleticism is tough to deal with. Right. What do I always say? Scoring over length is the most difficult thing to do in this league. And that's what you want to put on Steph Curry and Jordan Poole and these guys. It's just bother them with athleticism and size and length on the wings, because that historically gives the Warriors trouble. And so that's what this team's going to have to do. So Jenna, it's going to be Boston has the tools and the pieces. You see it to be a team that gives the Warriors problems and can win this series. I wish they ended the series against Miami in 6 games and not gone to 7, but it is what it is. And we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah. And here we are. So let's talk for a second. Another question for you. If any, what coaching adjustments need to be facilitated, made in this specific series, catering to the Warriors?
It's funny, right? Like it isn't like all of a sudden Boston or Golden State is going to come up with some brand new scheme. Like, they're going to be who they are, right? They're going to stick to what they are and the principles that have gotten there. The Warriors and their motion offense, read and react, right? Celtics with that ball movement as well. The key on the Celtics end is going to be how consistently can they play, Jenna? And they play that good offensive Celtics basketball where the ball is zipping around, where Tatum and Brown are moving. Because every once in a while for like 3-4 minutes, they get dumb and they start playing isolation basketball. They start taking ill-advised shots. And you're like, what the hell was that? Like Marcus Smart takes like 5 bad shots in a row. And you're like, what is this? Right?
Yeah.
They listen, they do that against this team. That's like an 18-0 run the other way for a Golden State, right? You cannot have those moments. And so I'm going to look for Boston, especially, to use their defense as they have been, but even more so in this series, to transition into fast break and their early offense. Because we know not only is scoring early in the shot clock, that's a better thing. Scoring against a not set defense is also key, right? Don't let Golden State get a chance to load up and set their defense. Make or miss. You grab that. That's what Golden State does well, even off of makes on the other team. When that ball goes in, Draymond's ripping it out the net and throwing it up the floor to get you in an unsettled situation. That's in any sport, that is your goal. Any sport with a ball like that, right? Like soccer, basketball, lacrosse, whatever. Your goal when you have the possession and the ball on offense is to get the defense into an unsettled situation where they don't know shit. Who am I supposed to? What man is that? That's what you want. You want them scrambling to think. Exactly. And when they're thinking and not reacting, right? Barbecue chicken, as Shaq would say, right? That's what you want. You want to attack. And so Boston's got to be big on that, trying to get out in transition and not attack the Warriors set defense. And, same thing for Golden State. Scoring in the half court against, Boston, even with all their motion offense, is going to be tough, right? So they're going to want to run as well off of makes. And if the pace gets high, do we see turnovers from both teams, and who does that benefit? That'll be interesting to watch.
That's also going to be a key factor, because let's not downplay the Warriors when it comes to turnovers. I mean, they are not perfect on that end of the floor. Yeah,
and Boston also is turning the ball over at a high rate, almost about a tenth or
in the last
lower
series.
than them. Yeah, so it's
Jaylen Brown had himself a turnover party.
I mean, Jaylen Brown and his inability to dribble the basketball is a problem. Okay, like that. Especially if the Warriors get Gary Payton the second back, which it looks like he'll be playing early in this series. That dude is a ball hawk. You have
huge
any kind
factor
of
off the bench.
You got weak handles around that dude, cookies. He's taking that thing and going the other way. So
he was like their number one defender at one point.
He
was mainly on Ja Morant.
If he had played enough minutes in the regular season, Jenna, he would have made an NBA all defensive team. That's how good he is. I believe, according to Dunks and Threes, which is, the site I love to use when looking at advanced metrics, estimated plus minus, I believe he was number 2 in the entire NBA in defensive estimated plus minus. Yes, he was. Second, behind teammate Draymond Green.
Makes sense.
And it's, he is And it's not just, small guys he can guard. He can guard wings. I mean, he can do it all. He's an excellent sort of off-ball defender too, because he can jump passing lanes. They get him back, he's going to create havoc. So he's someone to watch.
100%. And are you ready to make your prediction?
Not quite ready to make a prediction. I think another interesting thing to talk about here from an X factor standpoint, Jenna, is Andrew Wiggins. We talked about
game changer.
It's interesting, right? Like, so he's in many ways in the Harrison Barnes role, right? When the Warriors had Harrison before they had Kevin Durant. Like, I'm not going to disrespect KD by saying he's in the Kevin Durant role, because that would be extremely disrespectful.
That's what Twitter was trying to say.
Well, listen, we know how NBA Twitter does, and of course Durant going back at them as only he does.
That is
but
true.
Wiggins is in that Harrison Barnes role, and he's a better version of Harrison Barnes, right? They're going to assign him likely to defend Tatum, at least start out on Jason Tatum. So that'll be interesting to see. That's why I said in our betting show, look a lot for Jaylen Brown as a potential Finals MVP, because not that Andrew Wiggins is going to shut down Jason Tatum, because look, he didn't shut down Luka. Like, he ain't gonna shut down. The idea is, can you make it difficult for them, right? Make them take it on an inefficient number of shots. That way they're wasting possessions. That's your goal when you're dealing with any elite offensive player. And then offensively, is Wiggins going to play with the same confidence he's been playing with this postseason? Stepping it up, knocking down open threes, moving, cutting. Is the final stage going to be too big for him? And I don't think it will, because again, Jenna, in this scenario, he's not asked to be the guy, right? It's like, yeah, you were a number one pick, and we know what all that means. But on this team, you ain't no number one pick, okay? You like the number 4 option out here, my guy. So don't you worry about all that. We need you to play defense, get out in transition and run, rebound, do all those different things. Shoot it with confidence when you're open. When you don't have the ball, be moving, get off the ball quickly, get to the basket. We'll find you for some open layups and dunks. I think if he's able to continue to play at that level, man, that's a big X factor for Golden State, because that's someone they're going to have to then pay attention to on the Celtics side defensively. So it'll be interesting. Of course, when you're playing the Warriors, and Ime Udoka said this, the core of the Warriors is the core, but sometimes people overreact to the shooting, and that's true, right? You never want to find yourself in that scenario where you're so panicked all the time. Oh my God, where's Steph? Where's Clay? It's like, yes, we know you need to be aware of where they are, but not to the point where it forces you to get out of what you're supposed to be doing, right? Continue that trust in knowing, no, okay, yes, Steph may have went left, right? But I know that Grant's got me covered in the corner. I know, right? Knowing that you're together and you're tethered on the string, and your teammates got your back, and we're not worried. Like, we're fine. So-and-so's got my back. So-and-so's got me covered. It's when you panic and you overcommit, and then you rotate. Yeah. Now it's 3 on the ball. It's like, no, it's not supposed to be 3 here. Now we got that 4-on-3 unsettled situation behind, and the Warriors feast on that, right? And that's the idea, is like Steph using all of that off-ball action to confuse and misdirect, because the threat of him shooting is there. Yeah, we know the threat. But as Ime is saying, let's not overreact, right? Stay guarded and stay locked into whatever our defensive principles and our game plan is, and execute.
And let's take a second too to recognize Steve Kerr. I mean, that man, like, nobody ever questions loyalty in Golden State, right? But when you think about it, when you think about coaching in a vacuum, I mean, what about those couple years where the Warriors were just like,
I mean, those were great years.
Great years
for Steve, right? Because he got to teach those other guys, here's how we play. Here's how we're going to play. So that when we get to this stage, because they knew as an organization we would get back here eventually, now you guys are ready and you understand. So it's the job that Kerr did in those 2 years you mentioned, Jenna, to get guys like Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins last season ready for this moment, this year, right? And that was the goal. And we would be remiss if we did not shout out Stephen Curry and his ability to understand the bigger picture, and it's, I don't, you know me. I don't love doing this like wah, wah,
I do.
rah, rah. I know you
It's
love
okay.
I hate all this crap. I mean, I don't actually hate it, but you know, sometimes I think it gets a little too overblown by too many members in the media. But what I will
Me.
say is this: his ability to understand the bigger picture, and in those 2 years when the Warriors were he had the injury that first year after the finals, so they were terrible, didn't win any games, but they had that lottery pick that got James Wiseman, right? Last year, in the D'Angelo Russell trade, they got back Wiggins and a pick that turned into Jonathan Kuminga. His ability, though, to trust in the organization and Bob Myers, because and this is not a knock on LeBron or KD, but right, LeBron in particular, right? Remember there was that shirt, and when I think it was Aaron Donald for the Rams, who was like, "Man, fuck them picks," and like LeBron was like, "Yeah, agreeing." Like, okay, I hear you because you want to win now and you only trust certain guys. But, LeBron, how nice would it be if the Lakers had some picks right now and you could perhaps rebuild what you got going on? Don't have any because you had to get your man's AD. Now, look, it worked. You won a title, but odds are you ain't winning no more, right? Like, that's it. And it would have been different had you perhaps had them draft capital. Same thing happening in Brooklyn, right? When you're bringing KD and Kyrie, and you trade away all your young assets in Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, and all those picks to get Harden, who's not even on the team anymore, right? And now you got a bare cupboard, right? And it's Steph trusting in the organization that they're going to do right by me. We're going to build these young guys up, and we're going to move forward in the process. In that way, he's as much as his shooting is obviously his greatest skill, equally as great is his ability as a teammate to have trust in the organization and for him to be an easy superstar to play with. So guys are like, no, we can roll with this dude. This works. And that is a rare thing to find, right? And this is what allows the Warriors to be who and what they are, right? He is this generation's version of Tim Duncan, right? It's the same thing that happened in San Antonio, right? That kind of star that allows, we want Tony Parker to get shine and Manu Ginobili, and it's cool by me. Once we win in titles, I don't care, right? Like, and that's the idea, because once you keep winning, ultimately it's going to be what it is, right? The legacy will define itself. And Curry, Jenna, I hate legacy talk, but like, he wins another championship, that'll be 4, right? So he'll be a 4-time champion, 2-time league MVP. Let's say he wins the finals MVP. So then he's got one of those. I mean, we're embarking on top 12, right? Top 10 territory all time, right? That's phenomenal. And so again, kudos. None of this works in Golden State without Steph being that kind of guy, right? Because he could easily and would be well within his right as a superstar to be like, I ain't got no time for developing no young dudes. Get me some dudes in here who know how to win so we can win now. Like, he'd be well within his right to do that. We see superstars all over the league do it. But he didn't. He trusted in the process, not the shout out to the Sixers, right? And it's working because now the Warriors, his prime's been extended, right? Look at next year. They got Kuminga, Moody, Jordan Poole. I mean, this is going to extend the prime years of that core group. They could go on another run here of winning another 3 or 4 titles, right? And it's just kudos to Curry and the Golden State Warriors organization.
Absolutely. Incredible point. I mean, everything that you said, selfless guy, really. I mean, patience and selflessness would describe him the past couple years up until now. I mean, having Poole, get a little taste of that starting 5 action, and we've seen it all. So I mean, hey, Steph Curry is as good as they say. For real. And again, they're setting themselves up, great point, for years ahead at this point. And this younger core group per se that Steve Kerr is molding there, I mean,
this is huge. This is valuable experience for them, Jenna, because obviously Poole's going to play a big role. I think Kuminga's going to get some time in the finals as well. All of this and Moody got some time in the playoffs early, and Wiseman will be back next year. All of this, listen, you come back next season, obviously the core 3 is staying there. Those guys now that we mentioned have an expanded role. It can give the veterans a little time off in the regular season to play less minutes. Give these guys some more. Again, now you're stretching out. Now our youngest guys are 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. That helps out the 35-year-old legs, right? You see? And so it kind of works itself out. And, look, a lot of luck and a lot of things have to happen, right? We talked about this all the time. What did I say? That year that Steph got hurt and last year may have been the two best things that ever happened to this team. Because in a sense, Steph, Clay, and Draymond got 2 years off, right? Like after going to 5 straight finals, that wears on you physically and emotionally. You can see it; they're hungry again, right? It's like, it recharged the batteries, and I think this is what's going to make it such an epic series, in my opinion.
I cannot wait. Shall we, Gerard?
Yes, prediction time. What say you? Or you want me to go first?
No, I'll go first
Okay.
because I don't want you to steal my answer. No, I'm kidding. My prediction, honestly, I'm gonna go Warriors in 7.
Okay. And that's a pick that I think a lot of people are leaning with because
It's the safer pick. Let's be serious.
Of course it's safe, but it also, what you're saying is that you see the series as even, and the deciding factor being home court. And
I do.
Game 7 is at home for the Warriors. I mean, that's just the facts. And I think honestly, if the series does go 7 because of that home court advantage and again the corporate know-how, I got to give the slight edge to the Warriors, although we did see them lose a Game 7 at home to the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2016. Now, that team had a peak LeBron James, and this team does not have a peak LeBron James in the Celtics. So, I'll say this. I'm going to go on a limb here. I'm going to pick the Boston Celtics, and it's because I love that defense, and I think Coach Udoka is going to pull some special magic out. The only way I see Boston winning this, Jenna, is winning it in 6. Because if this goes 7, not happening. No way. 6 is how it has to happen for Boston. Like that is the path for them. They're not going to win it in 4 or 5 because the Warriors are too good. I just cannot see them winning a Game 7 on the road. And even though they did just win a Game 7 on the road in Miami, listen, all due credit to the Miami Heat, Expo, outstanding club and organization. They are nowhere near as good as the Warriors, right? Like they don't pose the same problems. No, it would have
been a boring series.
They don't pose the same problems. Well, the Heat don't score, right? I mean, so while they're more physical and rugged and they don't quit and all that, sure, but they don't score. So whereas the Warriors, again, as I mentioned, they're weaponized. Everybody on the floor is a threat. But yeah, if the Celtics are going to win this, to me, it has to be in 6 games because I don't see it happening in 7. So I'll go out on a limb and say Celtics in 6. They'll probably change my mind and be like, this ain't happening.
Hey, you never know. The thing is with the Celtics, I mean, not to be a whole what do they call them? Like conspiracy theorists? I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Like the story is too perfect. Like it's literally too perfect. You guys went through so much. You have a first-year head coach. I mean, this is just like
the whole team of destiny thing, right? They were like under 500, like all that, and they can't. Yeah.
It's just too good to be true, almost. I mean, I don't know. You never know, though. That would happen because I'm notorious for eating my words. So,
what I want, Jenna, most of all, as I said, no one's 100% at this time of the year. I don't want any more injuries in the finals. Like,
no.
I don't want that. Like, please. I just want everyone to be able to get through in the relative health they're in now.
Yeah.
And I want to see
like a more even match.
Yes. And I want to see this match as even as possible, even though, it's not really realistic because of the nature of how things go.
And really quick, because this has been a big topic of discussion, especially in the last series, officiating. What's the deal here? What's got to go down? What's not got to go down in this series?
I think, we talked about Marcus Smart and his ability to draw fouls. I think, look, the players need to not focus on the refs and focus on the game. If either side is caught up in talking to the refs, huge advantage the other way. Like, just don't. Yeah. Yes, they're going to make bad calls that you think are bad. They're going to admit, sure, it happens. But when you get into that part of the game, you're not focusing. I go back to the Grizzlies series, Jenna, against the Warriors. Remember when Dylan Brooks got the flagrant 2 and ejected for the foul on Gary Payton II? And Steve Kerr in the postgame said that Dylan Brooks broke the code. He messed with the Grizzlies' head because all the rest of the series, That's all the Grizzlies were talking about. Who broke the code? Who did what? Oh, how come Jordan Poole didn't break the code for doing this to John Morant? Man, don't worry about that bullshit. Okay.
Right. Like quit the trash talk
focus
unless
on
you can
the
handle
game.
the trash talk.
Right. Focus on the game. Don't be caught up in those other distractions that have nothing to do with actually on the floor. Right. Like and they were a young team and they got kind of suckered into that. Like Steve Kerr did, he played under Greg Popovich and Phil Jackson, two of the notorious mind game masters in the history of this sport. Right. Don't get caught up in that foolishness. And I think Ime Udoka will have his guys ready and like not focused on that. That is, focus on what you can control. You can't control what the refs do. You can control what you can. That's the thing. And whatever team understands that the best will have an edge.
Exactly. And mentally, that'll have the edge as well. And we already know, the numbers don't lie. The Warriors obviously have the edge in that. So it's going to take mind games for the Celtics to, I think, pull out everything here. So we'll see. Again, not minimizing the Celtics either. It's just that we haven't had enough to go off of to judge them at this level.
I mean, look, and the Warriors get so much extra credit, if you will, by a team that's already won 3 times, and we've seen them perform on this stage, right? So that is, that's what gives everybody so much confidence. They're like, oh no, we've seen them do it before. We haven't seen these guys do it. But as I said in the beginning, before the Warriors won one, they didn't. Right. So
exactly.
If a team's going to win, or if you're going to win your first one, well, you have to win it. Right. So, I mean, at some point, like none of that stuff matters. And I think once the first like opening seconds and jitters get out of the way, you realize, man, this is a basketball game and we got to do what we got to do to win a basketball game. Right.
Exactly.
And we should see some good ball.
Eye on the prize. Yes, we should. Guys, this is not our last episode, so make sure you guys stick with us. Remember, my pick is Warriors in 7. Gerard's got the C's in 6. So follow us, stay with us, and we will be with you here and even after the series. So don't worry. We ain't going anywhere yet. It's going to be a long one. I have a feeling.
It's going to be a long one for sure. Guys, we are part of the Props Network, as we mentioned. Check out our gambling segment and make sure you download the PrizePicks app. Use the promo code 7footers you see on the bottom of the crawler there. We are on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, YouTube, all those at 7footers pod on Twitter, at 7footers podcast on Instagram, at JS Hector, at Jenna Lemoncelli. And until next time, peace.
Spent a couple years out here with these raps, trying to have a plan that we made come true. Applied to some jobs, but I ain't here.